Truth Be Told Project.
You ever try to bring something up and the other person disappears right in front of you? Like, physically, they're there. Same room, same couch, same heartbeat in the air. But emotionally, it's like the lights cut off. You say, hey, can we talk? And their whole body goes on lockdown. The jaw tightens, the eyes slide away, the phone suddenly becomes fascinating. You get one word answers like you're interrogating a suspect. And if you push even a half inch, you get hit with, I'm tired. Not right now. You always doing this. I don't want to argue. Or the worst one, silence. And that silence is loud. It says, you're too much. It says, this doesn't matter. It says, I'm leaving you alone in this. So your chest gets hot, your thoughts speed up because you're not just trying to talk. You're trying to stop the relationship from slowly bleeding out. Now, if you're the one shutting down, you're not thinking, I'm trying to be toxic. You're thinking, if I open my mouth, this is going to blow up and I'm going to lose control. And if you're the one bringing it up, you're not trying to start a fight. You're trying to get your person back. So here's the question. What do you do when someone shuts down every single time you bring something up? Because by default, most of us panic and make it worse. We chase harder. We get louder. We stack issues. We say something we can't take back. Or we could go cold and punish back. But today, we're not doing default. Today, we're coaching design. I'm going to give you a simple 3-move system, real words, so you can start without triggering shutdown, pause without abandoning, and return in a way that actually resolves the issue instead of resetting the same fight tomorrow again. Here's a quick arc check because I want you tracking where we are. This is part 2 of a 4-part run on emotional shutdown and avoidance, default versus design. And the last episode in the finale, episode 4, I'm going to give you a 7-day return plan, real steps you can run so you stop disappearing and start living by design. And when I say plan, I mean something you can actually do day by day. So you don't just nod at this and then repeat the same cycle next week. Now let's set this up right. This episode is for 2 people. One, the person who brings things up and feels ignored. You're trying to talk, trying to fix, trying to connect, and it feels like you keep hitting a wall. 2, the person who shuts down and feels overwhelmed. Your mind goes blank, your chest gets tight, and you feel like if you stay in the conversation, it's going to escalate and you're going to fail. So you retreat. And I'm not picking sides today because the goal isn't to prove who's right. The goal is to stop the pattern that's slowly taking the oxygen out of your relationship. Because you can love each other and still be stuck. You can pray and still be triggered. You can mean well and still be bleeding one shutdown at a time. Because most of the time, Both people are trying to protect something. The pursuer is protecting connection. If we don't talk, we're going to drift. If we don't address it, it's going to rot. The withdrawer is protecting safety. If we talk, it's going to get bigger. If I say the wrong thing, it's going to turn into a whole thing. So if you've been stuck in that push and pull, one chasing, one disappearing, this is for you. And here's what I'm going to give you in this episode. I'm going to give you a way to start the conversation without lighting the fuse. I'm going to give you a way to pause without abandoning each other, because a pause is healthy, but disappearing is damage. And I'm going to give you a way to return so issues actually get resolved, not just postponed. That's the difference between default and design. Default is what you do when you're triggered and moving fast. Design is what you do when you slow down, tell the truth, and let God shape how you handle tension. So here's the promise. By the end of this episode, you'll have exact words for both sides of the dynamic. What to say when you want to bring it up, and what to say when you feel yourself shutting down. So you can create safety for both people and keep the relationship from bleeding out in silence. No more guessing. You'll have a system you can repeat when emotions spike today. Let's make it real, because this pattern doesn't show up in theory. It shows up on Tuesday when nobody planned to have a relationship conversation, but the distance has been building and you can feel it. Maybe it's something small that keeps happening. They keep interrupting you. They keep making jokes when you're serious. They keep brushing past you like you're not there. They keep saying, you're fine, when you're not. Or you're carrying the schedule, the bills, the kids, the emotional weather, and you're tired of feeling like the only one who notices. So you pick a moment, not even dramatic, just honest, and you say, hey, can we talk about something? And instantly the temperature drops. They go, about what? But it's not curiosity, it's a shield. And now you're standing at the edge of the conversation like, okay, how do I say something without turning it into a fight? So you try to be careful. You try to be fair. I've been feeling a little disconnected lately. Or when you said that earlier, it kind of stung. It kind of hurt my feelings. Or I feel like I'm carrying a lot and I need help. And you watch them start shutting down in real time. Their eyes go away. Their body turns a little. Their tone goes flat. They get busy with a cup, a remote, a phone, anything to not be in the moment with you. Now, here's the part that messes people up. For the pursuer, that shutdown feels like rejection. It doesn't feel neutral. It feels personal. It feels like you don't care. It feels like I'm alone in this. It feels like I'm not safe to be honest with you. So your nervous system does what it takes. You escalate. You think faster because you're trying to keep the door from closing. You add details because you're trying to be understood. You bring up examples because you're trying to prove it's real. And before you know it, you're stacking issues. It's not just today. It's been like this. And you always do this when I try to talk. And last week too. Now, from your side, you're fighting for a connection. But from their side, it feels like a courtroom. And that's when the withdrawer's nervous system does what it does. It slams the brakes because for the withdrawer, conflict doesn't feel like let's connect. Conflict feels like danger. It feels like I'm about to get trapped. I'm about to be blamed. I'm about to fail. I'm about to say the wrong thing. So they go quiet or they get defensive or they leave the room or they hit you with, here we go again. And then right when you needed them most, you lose them. Now your anxiety spikes because silence feels like abandonment. So you press harder. Why are you shutting down? Why can't you ever talk? Do you even care? And now they feel attacked. So they shut down more. They go cold. They stare past you. They say, I'm done, and walk away. Or they stay, but they're gone. Now both of you are in survival mode. The pursuer is thinking, if I don't push, nothing will change. The withdrawer is thinking, if I stay, this is going to explode. In the original issue, the thing you actually wanted to talk about gets lost under the reaction. You're no longer talking about what happened. You're fighting about how you fight. And here's a heartbreak. Both people leave that moment feeling unseen. The pursuer leaves thinking, I tried, and you still disappeared. The withdrawer leaves thinking, no matter what I do, it's never enough. And then the cycle repeats because nothing got resolved. It just got postponed with a little tension attached. So if you've been wondering, why do we keep having the same argument? This is why. It's not because you don't love each other. It's because the moment tension shows up, your bodies run old software. And until you install a new system, until you practice design, God's design, you'll keep replaying the same scene with different details. So let's slow down and name what's actually happening under the surface, because once you can see the cycle, you can interrupt the cycle. So let's put language on what's happening, because once you can name it, you can start changing it. Most couples don't have a communication problem. They have a nervous system problem. What you're calling they won't talk is often a threat response. What you're calling they're too sensitive is often a protection strategy. And what you're calling they're overreacting is often an attachment alarm. Here's the frame. Default is the automatic response your body reaches for when it senses danger. Design is the intentional response you choose when you slow down, regulate, and lead yourself on purpose. Default is fast. Design is slow. Default is reactive. Design is responsive. Default says, protect me. Design says, guide us. And the moment you feel that surge in your body, that's your default trying to take the wheel. Now let's go a layer deeper with attachment language. In a lot of relationships, you've got a pursuer or withdrawer dynamic. Not because one person is bad, but because two nervous systems learn two different survival moves. When closeness feels threatened, they reach, they ask, they press, they try to repair. Their core fear is disconnection. If we don't talk, we're drifting. If we're drifting, I'm losing you. That's why silence hits them like a siren. Silence doesn't feel like a pause. Silence feels like I'm alone. So they protest, they text again, they bring it up again, they raise the intensity, not because they want conflict, but because their body is trying to restore connection. The withdrawer, often more avoidant leaning, tends to move away. When conflict arises, their system reads it as danger and they go into deactivation, shut down, numb out, escape. Their core fear is escalation. If we talk, it's going to get bigger. If it gets bigger, I'm going to fail. And if I fail, I'm trapped. So they minimize, they go quiet, they change the subject. They say, I don't know. They leave the room, not because they don't care, but because their body is trying to survive the intensity. Here's what's wild. Both people are trying to regulate the same moment. One regulates by pursuing, the other regulates by withdrawing. So when the pursuer presses, the withdrawer feels flooded. When the withdrawer goes quiet, the pursuer feels abandoned. And both bodies interrupt the other person's coping strategy as a threat. That's the trap. Psychology calls it flooding. When your nervous system gets overwhelmed and you lose access to your best thinking. That's why you can be a mature adult at work. And then in one relationship conversation, you turn into somebody you don't recognize. Your heart rate climbs, your breath changes, your tone changes, and suddenly you're not choosing your words. You're reacting. Another phrase is window of tolerance. When you're inside your window, you can stay present, listen, and problem solve. When you're outside your window, you go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Pursuers often go fight, intensity, questions, pressure. Withdrawers often go freeze or flight, silence, shut down, exit. And if you don't design a system for what to do when you leave your window, you will default to the move you learned early. That's why I said earlier, default isn't always evil. Sometimes it's just unhealed. Sometimes it's just untrained. But if you keep living there, it will cost you because the relationship starts revolving around nervous system management instead of connection. Now, here's the part I want to add for the faith lens without making it weird. Design is what happens when you stop letting your triggers drive the car. Design is when you practice self-control in real time, not suppression, not pretending you're fine, self-control. So the question isn't who's wrong. The question is, how do we build safety for both nervous systems at once? Safety for the pursuer means you won't be abandoned in silence. Safety for the withdrawer means you won't be trapped in escalation. And when both people can feel safe, you can finally address the actual issue instead of fighting the cycle. So now that we named the cycle, let's talk about what the default behaviors look like in real life and why our good intentions usually make it worse. Before we get into the cost, I want to give you a quick self check because the fastest way to change a pattern is to stop acting like you don't know what you do. This is not a personality test, it's a nervous system snapshot. And you can have a little of both. Most people do, depending on the relationship. Answer these fast. Don't overthink it. Just notice what's most true when tension shows up. When conflict starts, do you feel an urge to move forward or move away? When the other person goes quiet, do you feel panicky or relieved? In hard talks, do you start talking more or do your words disappear? After an argument, do you want to fix it now or do you want space first? When you feel criticized, do you explain harder or shut down and get numb? If someone says, we need to talk, does your stomach drop because you might lose connection or because you might lose control? If your answers lean toward, move toward, panicky, talk more, fix it now, there's a good chance you run pursuer energy when you're triggered. If your answers lean toward move away, relieved, words disappear, space first, there's a good chance you run withdrawer energy when you're triggered. Now, here's why this matters. When someone shuts down, the person bringing it up usually defaults to one of two moves. Default number one, press harder. You talk faster. You repeat yourself. You add examples. You stack issues. You go from here's what hurt me to here's everything that's ever hurt me. And you don't even mean to pile on. You're just trying to keep the door from closing. But pressure is not the same as clarity, and intensity is not the same as intimacy. Default number two, punish them back. You go cold, you go quiet. You say, fine. You withdraw your warmth to make them feel what you felt. It's protest through distance. Now, the withdrawer has defaults too. Withdrawer default looks like silence, leaving the room, staring at the phone. I don't know. I'm done. And the big one, delaying forever. We'll talk later with no later. So what happens? The pursuer chases because disconnection feels unbearable. The withdrawer disappears because escalation feels unbearable, and both people swear they're reacting to the other person when really they're reacting to their own alarm system. Now let's talk cost, because avoidance and intensity both have a bill. If you keep repeating this cycle, here's what it produces. Issues compound like interest. Little things don't stay little. Resentment grows in silence. What you don't say doesn't disappear, it stores. Trust gets shaky. Closeness becomes inconsistent. Some days feel amazing, other days feel like your roommates. Conversations become landmines. You start managing moods instead of building intimacy. And eventually, you don't even argue about the original issue. You argue about the fact that you can't talk about anything. That's when people start editing themselves. That's when you start keeping score. That's when you start feeling lonely next to somebody you love. That's how love slowly turns distant. So hear me. The goal is not never get triggered. The goal is to build a designed system for what to do when you do. Because if you don't design for your triggers will design your relationship. All right, here's the design path. I want you to hear this clearly. Design does not mean talk when you're heated or upset. Design means don't disappear. We're building a simple system. Move one is a soft start. This is how you begin. Move two is the pause and return time, how you regulate without abandoning. And move three is the return and the resolve, how you finish with safety. Move one, the soft start or how you begin. This is where most people lose the whole conversation before it even starts, because the first 30 seconds set the temperature for the next 30 minutes. If you start like a prosecutor, don't be surprised when they go into defense mode. If you start like a partner, you give the nervous system a chance to stay in the room. Here's the principle. Start like you want it to end. If you want it to end in connection, don't start with contempt. A hard start sounds like, we need to talk. You've been acting real weird. You've been moving real different. Or, why are you always like this? Or, you never listen. It's exhausting. So I guess I'm doing everything again. If the issue is real, the delivery hits like a threat, and threat triggers default. A soft start does three things. First, it lowers the threat level. It also increases clarity, and it makes a clear request instead of a vague complaint. Let me show you with two quick role plays. Role play number one, and this is the hard start. This is how it goes wrong. The pursuer says, so are we going to talk about how you ignored me all day? Or are you just going to keep doing this? The withdrawer says, I didn't ignore you. The pursuer says, yes, you did. You always do this, and I'm tired of it. The withdrawer goes quiet, looks away. The pursuer says, see, you're doing it right now. The withdrawer says, I'm not doing anything. I'm just not doing this. The pursuer says, wow. So you just don't care. The withdrawer says, I said I'm not doing this. And they leave. Notice what happened? In 20 seconds, it turned into defense versus pressure. Nobody felt safe. Nobody felt understood. This is the second role play. This is the soft start. This is how it goes right. The pursuer says, hey, can I bring something up? I'm not trying to fight. I'm trying to stay close to you. The withdrawer says, okay, what is it? The pursuer says, I felt really disconnected today. When text went unanswered, my mind started running. I miss you. Can we talk for 10 minutes? The withdrawer exhales. Yeah, 10 minutes is okay. That's good. That's doable. The pursuer, thank you. And if you start feeling overwhelmed, tell me. I'd rather pause than push. The withdrawer says, all right, cool. Same issue, completely different nervous system outcome. Now let's get practical. Here are 3 soft starts you can steal. Soft start A is simple, and it has a time box to it. Hey, I'm not trying to argue. You can say something like, hey, I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to understand us. Can we talk for 10 minutes? Why does this work? It works because it signals safety and containment, which reduces the flooding we talked about earlier. Soft start B is the feeling plus the need. You could say something like, I've been feeling disconnected and I miss you. I don't want to fight. I want closeness. Why does this work? Why will it work? It leads with vulnerability instead of accusation. Soft start C, this one has timing plus commitment involved. You would say something like, is now a good time? If not, can we pick a time today? I don't want to ignore this. I want to talk right. Why it works. It respects capacity and still protects connection. Now, a few micro repairs you can use mid conversation if you feel yourself coming in hot. If you hear your tone sharpen, pause and say, let me restart that. I'm coming in too strong. I want to say this in a way you can hear. I'm not against you. I'm for us. I don't want to win. I want to understand. Those lines interrupt default in real time. They tell both nervous systems, we're not in danger. We're in dialogue. Don't soft start and then immediately hard finish. Hey, I'm not trying to argue, but you're selfish. That's not a soft start. That's a fake out. Don't begin with always and never. Those are gasoline words. And don't start the talk when one of you is hungry, exhausted, or walking out the door. Timing is tone. Do name your intention. Do name your feeling. Do make one clear request and do keep it to one issue at a time, because stacking issues feels like attack to a flooded nervous system. Soft start is basically you saying, I'm coming for connection, not combat. Also, watch your first sentence. The first sentence should be a request, not a verdict. Request, can we talk about what happened earlier? Verdict is, you were so disrespectful earlier. Soft start does not mean soft truth. It means wise delivery. Here's a quick filter. If your opener would make you defensive if someone said it to you, it's probably a hard start. So before you start, ask, what is my actual goal right now? If the goal is closeness, lead with closeness. Okay, move number one is your beginning. Move number two. Move two, pause plus return time. This is how you regulate without abandoning. Now, even with a soft start, there's a reality you can't skip. Some people hit their limit fast. Their chest tightens, their thoughts scatter, their tone goes flat, and you can feel the shutdown coming. If you're the pursuer, your instinct is, no, stay right here. We're finally talking. If you're the withdrawer, your instinct is, I need out right now. This is where most couples either explode or disappear. So here's the reframe. A pause can be healthy. A disappearance is damage. A pause says, I care about this enough to come back. A disappearance says, I'm choosing relief over repair. Because the pursuer will talk later with no later doesn't feel like maturity. It feels like abandonment. And for the withdrawer, we have to talk right now. Doesn't feel like connection. It feels like being trapped. So move two is how you build safety for both nervous systems at once. Here's the design pause. You don't just stop. You schedule the return. You don't just escape intensity. You protect connection while you regulate. So let's do it with real words. If you're the withdrawer, your line is, I feel myself shutting down. I'm not trying to avoid you. I'm overwhelmed. I need a pause so I don't say something ugly or go numb. Can we come back at 8:30? It names the body signal. It names the intention. It makes a commitment. Now, if you're the pursuer, your line is, okay, thank you for telling me. I'll respect the pause, but I need the return time so I'm not left hanging. 8:30 works. That sentence, I'll respect the pause, but I need the return time, is the difference between a healthy break and a 3 days of distance. Because a pause without a return time becomes avoidance. Here's what usually goes wrong. The withdrawer says, I can't do this. The pursuer hears, I don't care. The pursuer pushes harder. The withdrawer disappears. And now you both escalate in opposite directions. A design pause interrupts that. A quick example. Default, the pursuer says, please don't do this. We never finish anything. The withdrawer says, I can't talk right now. The pursuer says, so you're leaving me again. The withdrawer says, I said I can't. And they walk away. In design, the pursuer says, when you walked off earlier, I felt dismissed. The withdrawer says, I feel myself shutting down. Then the pursuer says, okay, thank you for telling me. The withdrawer says, I'm overwhelmed. Can we pause and come back at 8:30? The pursuer says, yes, 8:30. Thank you for not disappearing. The withdrawer says, I'm not leaving this. I just need a minute. That is safety. And here's why return time matters so much. It turns fear into structure. For the pursuer, structure calms the attachment alarm. You can tell your body, I'm not being abandoned. We have a plan. For the withdrawer, structure prevents the spiral of pressure because you're not trapped in the endless conversation. You're agreeing to a specific reentry point. And if you want to make it even safer, add one small detail. What does return time look like? Try, let's come back, sit on the couch, and do 5 minutes each, no interruptions. Or when we return, can we start with one sentence each? What we feel and what we need. That keeps the return from turning into round two, fight. Also, if you're the withdrawer, don't ghost the return time. If you truly can't make it, send one sentence before it passes. I'm not dodging. I'm still flooded. Can we do maybe 9:15 instead? That one sentence protects trust. Consistency builds security. One kept return time can change the whole relationship. And let me say it plainly. The most attractive thing you can do in conflict is regulate yourself. Not perform calm, not go numb, actually regulate. Because regulation tells the other person, you don't have to panic. I'm still here. So instead of vague language that creates uncertainty, use language that reduces it. Not right now, but today at blank. I can do 10 minutes now and then we pause. I want to talk. I'm flooded. Give me 15 minutes or blank amount of time and I'll return. Now, if you're the pursuer, here's the skill you have to build. Stop treating a pause like rejection. A pause can actually be love if it comes with return. So if they ask for a pause, you can say, okay, I'm going to respect your nervous system and I need you to respect mine by coming back when you said. That is not controlling. That's creating a secure pattern. Now, what do you do during the pause? If you're the withdrawer, you don't use the pause to build a case or rehearse a defense. Do something that actually brings your system down. Breathe, take a walk, drink some water, pray, write in your journal, and put down a few sentences. Whatever helps you come back present. If you're the pursuer, don't use the pause to spiral or punish. Use it to organize. What is the one issue? What is the one request? Because if both people regulate, the return is easier. Now, what if the withdrawer won't give a return time? You can say calmly, I'm willing to pause. I'm not willing to avoid. I need a return time today. If you can't do that, we need support because this pattern is hurting us. No threats, no yelling, just clarity. Because relationships can survive discomfort, they do not survive chronic disappearance. So move to a simple pause on purpose, return on purpose, not chase, not vanish, pause and return. Move three, return plus resolve, how you finish with safety. When you come back, the goal is not to restart the argument. The goal is to restart connection because a lot of couples return physically, but emotionally they return with armor. They sit back down defensive, ready to prove a point. Hear this: the return is a reentry, and reentry needs tenderness. Tenderness is not weakness. Tenderness is what makes the truth land without creating new wounds. So when you return, you don't start with the issue, you start with safety. Here's a return script you can steal. Thank you for coming back. I know this isn't easy, and I'm not here to attack. I'm here because I love you and I want us to be okay. That sentence tells the nervous system we're on the same team. Now, if you're the withdrawer, you can add, thank you for giving me space. I wasn't trying to avoid you. I just needed a minute to get back inside my window. And if you're the pursuer, you can add, thank you for returning. The return matters to me more than perfection. I need to know you'll come back. Notice what we're doing. We're building security before we do problem solving. After the return script, you move into understanding slowly. One of the most tender questions you can ask is, can you tell me what you heard me say? Not, do you get it now? Not, why can't you understand? Just, what did you hear? Because half of the fights couples have are misunderstandings, not disagreements. Here are a few more gentle questions that keep the door open. What part felt hard for you? What did you start feeling in your body? What do you think I meant? What do you need from me to feel safe while we talk? Those questions are designed for one thing: presence. If you get sharp, put a hand on your chest, breathe, soften your eyes, and speak gently. Now let's talk about a simple structure for the return so it doesn't turn into an hour-long spiral. Try this. Each person gets 1 minute to answer two prompts. One, what I feel is, or two, what I need is. That's it. Not five issues, not the whole history, one feeling, one need. For example, the pursuer can say, what I feel is lonely and a little panicky when you get quiet. What I need is reassurance that we're okay and a plan to come back. The withdrawal could say something like, what I feel is overwhelmed and afraid, and I'm going to mess it up when the conversation gets intense. What I need is a slower pace and for us to stick to one thing at a time. And if you can do that, you're already lowered the temperature. Now, this is a tender part that changes everything: ownership. Not self hate, not a sermon, just one sentence of ownership each. The pursuer ownership might sound like, my part is, I came in too hot. I stacked issues. I pushed when you were overwhelmed. The withdrawer ownership might sound like, my part is, I disappeared. I went quiet and I didn't give you a clear return time. And if you could only say one sentence, say this: my part, my part is, I made it harder for you to stay with me. That line right there melts defenses because it doesn't excuse behavior, but it honors impact. After ownership, you move into repair. Repair is simply, what can we do differently next time? And this is where you keep it small and doable. Try agreement statements like, next time we feel tension, we'll soft start and time box the talk. If either of us starts flooding, we'll pause and set a return time within the same day. When we return, we'll restart with safety, then do one filling and one need each. And then this matters, you end with a brief reconnection, not a forced hug, not a performance, just a human moment. You can say, I'm glad we came back. I'm proud of us for not disappearing. I love you, and I'm still here because your nervous systems need a signal that the danger has passed. Now, if you're thinking, but what if the return still turns into a fight? That can happen, especially early on, because you're learning a new pattern. So if it escalates, you don't throw the whole system away. You simply design another pause. Say, hey, I feel us heating up again. I don't want to hurt each other. Can we pause for 15 and come back? That's not failure, that's training. And I want to say something tender to both roles. To the pursuer, your desire for closeness is not wrong, but closeness doesn't come from pressure, it comes from safety. So every time you slow your tone and stick to one issue, you're building safety. To the withdrawer, your need for space is not wrong, but space without return becomes distance. So every time you name your overwhelm and still come back, you're building trust. That's the point of move three. Move three is you proving with actions that the relationship matters more than your comfort in the moment. It's you choosing repair over relief. And if you can learn to return tender, speak honest, and end with agreement, you won't just communicate better, you'll become secure. Because security is not the absence of conflict, security is the presence of return. All right, move one is how you begin. Move two is how you pause without abandoning. Move three is how you come back with tenderness and finish with agreement. Now, let's talk about what it looks like when shutdown becomes a pattern and how to set mature boundaries without turning into a threat. Now, when shutdown becomes a pattern, we have to tell the truth. Sometimes shutdown is a stress response, a nervous system, it's overload. Flooding happens, you pause, you return, you repair. But when shutdown becomes the go to move, every time there's tension, it stops being, I'm overwhelmed. It becomes a relationship injury because the message the other person receives is, your feelings are not safe here. And over time, that doesn't just hurt, it rewires the relationship. Here's how you can tell it's becoming a pattern. Hard conversations never fully happen. You keep pausing, but you don't return. Accountability gets delayed indefinitely. The same issues recycle because nothing gets resolved. The moment you feel discomfort, you disappear, physically or emotionally. And listen, if shutdown is used to permanently avoid accountability, it can become a form of control. Not always intentional, but functionally, it controls the relationship by making certain topics off limits. So, this is where design includes a boundary. A boundary is not a threat, a boundary is a clear statement of what a healthy relationship requires. Here's the direct script: calm voice, steady tone. I respect that this is overwhelming. And I'm not asking you to talk perfectly, I'm asking you to talk. We cannot have a relationship where hard conversations never happen. So we need a system, pause and return time, same day. If you need a pause, I will honor it, but I need a return time and I need you to keep it. The next line is where people get scared, but it's maturity. And if we can't do that together, we need support, counseling, a coach, a trusted third party, because this pattern is hurting us. That's not punishment. That's reality. Because love without repair turns into distance, and distance turns into two people living separate emotional lives. So if you're the withdrawer hearing this, here's the truth. This is not an attack on you. It's a call up. You don't have to stop needing space. You just have to stop using space as an exit. And if you're the pursuer hearing this, here's your truth. This isn't permission to pressure. This is permission to require return. You're not asking them to stay flooded. You're asking them not to disappear. All right, handles. Handles are the grip, what you hold on to when life starts sliding, so you don't just hear this, you live it. Handle number 1, soft start 1 issue this week. 1 issue, 1 request. Handle number 2, if either of you starts flooding, pause with the return time the same day. Handle number 3, when you return, restart with safety. Then 1 feeling and 1 need each in agreement. Now here's your 24-hour challenge. Before tomorrow ends, pick 1 sentence and send it. If you're the pursuer, I miss you. Can we talk for 10 minutes? If you're the withdrawer, you say, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm not avoiding you. Can we pause and come back at blank? 1 sentence, 1 return. That's how you retrain the pattern. Words to live by. By default, we chase or we disappear. By design, we pause and return. James 1:19 says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, because speed is what turns tension into damage. And Proverbs 15:1 says, a soft answer turns away wrath. Soft isn't weak, soft is wise. So this week, don't chase, don't vanish, pause, return, resolve. And don't miss the finale of this series, episode 4, because that's where I'm giving you the 7-day return plan you can run day by day to build a new default. Love y'all. Until next time, remember, don't just live by default, live by design, God's design. Subscribe to the channel or the podcast. Peace.